Well, welcome back to Tom's Comedy Club. Ooh, Hey, we're back with more Joking Apart, the podcast where I don't even remember the whole name of it. That's how good the podcast is. It gives me a moment of blankage. That's great. Now for admin, because not everyone watches all my other 19 YouTube shows, because if I include in the numbers, it would be 20. Tom Mason, Empire Studio Productions, have created a brand new YouTube channel called Here's What I Made Earlier. Hooray! All about Blue Peter. And as of the time of recording, the 16th of October, 2023, it's his 65th birthday. Happy birthday, Blue Peter. There we go. I guess that life admin out the way. Don't die on us, Blue Peter. And so, we move on for a cracking interview. My guest today is best known as the producer, and I would say / third co-host of the amazing podcast Trusty Hogs, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, but no longer BBC Sounds. It's one and only Andrew White. So we'll start at the very beginning, because it's an interesting place to start, and Julie Andrews wants to sing about it. How did you get into comedy?
Wow, I always loved comedy. I always used to enjoy watching YouTube compilations and the Russell Howard Good News stand-up clips, especially. That's I remember really loving. So I just wanted to do it, and I didn't know where to do it. And thankfully, this advert popped up for a youth open mic. I was 15 at the time, and I went along and I said, "Oh well, open mic is where you do comedy." And the woman running it said, "Yeah, that's great. This is mostly musicians, but you could host it." So I went and hosted that open mic, and I hosted it every month, and it all sort of spiraled from there, meeting the right people and ending up down the right paths to, get into professional comedy.
And when you joined the circle, what was it like when you joined it? Like, what was the atmosphere, and what type of people run it when you joined?
Well, that is a very good question. I kind of missed the circuit a lot, because when I did this youth open mic, and then I went straight to the Edinburgh Fringe. And that year I was doing the Edinburgh Fringe. I was sharing a venue with Dharmender Singh, who's a fantastic comedian based in Berlin. And then there was lots of people who sort of like breaking through that year. So Neil Patel, I remember being there. Callie Beaton and Catherine Bohart were doing their Split Bill show. And I didn't really know them that well. I think I just sort of bumped into them occasionally around the Fringe. And that was sort of my first introduction. And then when I started getting onto the proper circuit, I started in Portsmouth sort of area, because that was my nearest open mic. So I did gig with like Joe Wells, Sanjay Arif, Hetty Austin, lots of Portsmouth names who are very funny and lovely people.
Yeah. And when you go on to stage, do you do the classic Billy Connolly walk on, say whatever you want? Forgot what you've just said later on. So every time you do a show, it's different. Or do you meticulously sit your desk, write, and then make sure that it's the most amazing material you've ever written?
Probably more the latter, but not strictly either, really. I do prefer to have very tightly written stuff that I know where I'm going, and I have the gags to back up whatever direction I'm going in. But I do like a loose form stuff as well. I think at a new material night or something that's a bit more relaxed, perhaps I'm like closing an open mic in Bristol or something, that can go any direction. Sometimes I just get distracted by something, and then all of a sudden 20 minutes of my set is about something I never planned to talk about. But generally club gigs and theatre gigs and stuff, I like to be quite tight. Yeah.
And how long did it take you to find your style of comedy?
I think I've only recently sort of just got into a good rhythm of it. I think my last finish show 2022 was, there were flashes of it, and then in the club circuit I was starting to really like make it 20. That was very me. And I saw some success off the back of that. I did the British Comedian Final, came third in that, and started making in with lots of clubs that I've always wanted to work with. And so, yeah, I think really only in the last year or two have I found what is my unique comedy voice. I think I've always been able to sort of charm my way through a set and be generally quite likable, but to be uniquely and specifically me, I think that's something I found in the last year.
And then from being on the circuit, how did you end up being involved in what is what is in like the next 4 episodes going to be a juggernaut in the British podcast comedy genre. It's probably going to be off the menu. Don't tell Ed, but he'll probably cry in his sleep. But how did you get to work with Trusty Hogs?
Well, I originated Trusty Hogs with Catherine and Helen, and Catherine Bogart came to me. Well, she came to a friend of mine who couldn't take on another Zoom gig, and he said, "Well, you want to do a queer-focused Zoom gig? I know somebody who can do all that tech. He's good at that stuff, and is queer himself. Meet Andrew." And I'm forever grateful to David Hall for that introduction. So we started running Zoom comedy gigs called Gigless. For over 2 years we ran them on Zoom, and Helen took over as host about 6 months into that with Catherine. And we had an established audience already. We couldn't commit to Thursday night every week, and then we did a monthly. We couldn't do that either because our diaries were so busy on the circuit, very thankfully. But we didn't want to lose this community, and we didn't want to just walk away from it all. So we were like, let's turn this Zoom gig into a podcast, and thus Trusty Hogs was born. And now we're another 2 years down the line with the podcast as well.
And do you reckon that because of the way that some podcasts, not every, but some podcasts are going towards being on TV, I can name a few, which is Rose and Rams, Chris and Rose, that's it. See,
yeah,
last name, and then we also have Russell Kane with his coming. Do you reckon that Trusty Hogs has ability to transform to TV, or do you reckon it's a independent thing only?
It's an interesting question. I think Catherine and Helen is a fantastic hosting duo. I love being involved with it. I love being the third voice. So thank you for saying that I am as well, because I do like to think of myself as a third voice in it. But admittedly, the key dynamic, the winning formula is Catherine and Helen. And I think definitely Catherine and Helen in some sort of hosting format is going to end up on TV. I think maybe Trusty Hogs is a bit too loose and just chaotic, and we say some stuff that probably wouldn't get past silent broadcasters' censorship. Not censorship, that feels like too harsh a word, but you know what I mean, their standards. So maybe not Trusty Hogs itself, but Trusty Hogs in the form of Catherine and Helen, definitely I can see that having a life on TV and beyond. And we certainly want to do more live shows with it at the very least. So yeah, it'll exist outside of podcast form, I do believe.
Yeah, because since I discovered the podcast, I've seen Helen and Catherine a lot more, because Helen, I didn't know it's Catherine, but she never mentions it. It really annoys me because it's an interesting fact. She does some of the continuity announcements for Comedy Central, and she mentions it, and I always wish she had mentioned, because it's funny. It's a weird thing to do, because not many comedians do it, but it's like some people don't recognise. I sometimes think, is that her voice? And then I go, oh, it is. You can tell she's just been very professional about it. And so how long does it take you to edit? Because you also edit the episodes, if I'm not mistaken. But how long does it take you to edit the episodes?
Well, I'm very thankful at the moment. I did edit a lot of them, and I do edit occasionally still. But we've got a fantastic assistant producer called Em. So Em does a lot of the editing now. But when I'm editing, normally I've been in the room where it's happened, so I can write down stuff that we need to cut, Helen giving away her full address, etc., etc. So in terms of sitting down to editing, it's quite a quick job, because we don't cut much. We pretty, unless it's sensitive information, I can pretty much just plug it in my editor, add the credits, add the intro, and have it done within an hour, really. But if it's something a bit more complex, or I wasn't in the room, then I'll have to sit through and listen to the whole thing, and that can be more like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, and with you doing the podcast, you've also done some other things. You have a fantastic career outside of just the one podcast. What was it like writing on an episode of Newsjack?
Oh, well, that's interesting, actually. I thought we were going to go in a different direction. Newsjack, the sadly departed Newsjack, it was such a fantastic way in for comedy writing. Really, it was my first comedy writing credit. It was frustrating, I'll be honest, because the way Newsjack worked is a topical radio format, And you, as a writer, you'd have to be a comedian. Anyone from the public could submit stuff. You'd submit some one-liners and you submit some sketches, but it would be very sort of speculatively. You'd send it in, they'll read it, and maybe pick one thing. And actually, a lot of the time, they wouldn't pick anything. And you just had to keep submitting every week. So it was very good as a writing exercise to get you into that habit of writing. The jokes, so they did pick for me. I always told my worst joke, but that's the editorial choice. I'm very grateful for the small C that you get for that and the D to credit. But what I did do, because there's a topical stage show called News Review, and they have a submissions process as well. I took some of the sketches that got rejected by News Chat and sent them to News Review. And so they were running in the stage show for a few weeks. So it was all useful, even if you didn't get on the show. Very interesting process, and I think it is very important to keep sitting down and writing. You asked at the start of this interview whether I would sit down and write it, and I think I am, and I think the more you do it, the better you get at it. So it was a very good process. Even if the jokes they chose weren't one of my best.
And do you reckon that because of the sadly departed News Jag, but the form of DMs are up, do you reckon that the submission process type shows, do you reckon they're a useful term for people that want to get into comedy but are too nervous to do stand-up and open mics?
Yeah, I really think so. I think it's very hard to, there used to be a massive culture, especially in America, of like having writers and comedians, and often the comedians would never generate their own material. It would be from a writer's room, or if you go even further back to sort of a shared pool of material that everyone used. And then that culture has really disappeared from the UK. In America, there's still a little bit of it, and the stuff like Saturday Night Live still gives people an opportunity to write comedically without having to do stand-up. But really, other than, making your own stuff on TikTok, which can be very daunting and time-consuming, there's not many avenues to sort of get into comedy writing or to even know where to go for certain opportunities. So I think stuff like this, DMs are open. I know that BBC have a good sort of scouting process, that if you're submitting regularly, the DMs are open, they'll notice your name and then invite you into the studio and stuff like that. So I think it's fantastic. I've not heard much of DMs are open, so I can't comment on the actual content, but I'm all in favour of having more places that people can openly submit to.
Yeah. And recently the rumours have come back that because there's a program that originated in Japan called Last One Laughing, and Catherine's going to be in the Irish version. And what they've said is that if it's successful enough, they'll make a UK version. Do you reckon that it's the type of TV work that would suit your comedy personality, or do you reckon that you're more into like, other shows?
I would love that, and I think it's because I have discovered more of my personality in the last year that I would be more than happy to be on that sort of show. I think it's also a lot of fun anyway. I watched the Australian version with Sam Simmons and people like that, and that was really enjoyable. And it was sort of things like, oh, you want to be in this house and have a lot of fun with your comedy friends. But yeah, now I think I know a bit more what my persona is. Those sort of persona-led shows like Last One Laughing and Taskmaster, I'd really love to have a crack at. Yeah, it'd be really fun. And I've still not seen Catherine's Irish Last One Laughing, so I'm very excited to see that whenever I get a chance.
Well, I think that I think it's coming out next year as a general public. I'm with Catherine and I'm getting an early copy, and you'll be able to sneakily watch it and then rip her apart about it if she's not great on it. Because who knows? Because Aisling Bea's on it as well, so who knows whether or not we get along in a sense of trying to make each other laugh. And another thing you've worked on that had a tricky history, as in I think one of the hosts left straight after the first episode, but not many people spoke about it, and it's fantastic. What were they like working on? And hopefully I've written down the name right because I spelled it different ways. Yesterday, the day before, what were they like writing on an episode of that?
It's very personal because I was writing for Catherine, so I wasn't really writing for her on that. I was writing for her on Locks a Week. multiple weeks got such a quick turnover. You get the topics on like the Sunday and they film on the Tuesday, and sometimes they email on the Monday and they're like, we're going to do this tomorrow now. And it's hard to turn over the amount of material it needs, because it's hours of recording. So a lot of people get, work with their friends or with writers. And I was very lucky that Catherine, that they write for. I've written for other people, but it was very nice because that was a personal relationship that I had. It was very nice. And then the material from that didn't make it onto Mock the Week, that's what actually ended up in Yesterday, Today, and the Day Before. So it wasn't specifically for the show. It was just some stuff, some gags that she really liked that she couldn't get out on TV in Mock the Week, and she got them out on the other format. So yeah, I don't have much of a relationship with that show specifically, although I did enjoy the bits I saw. There's more specifically writing for Catherine.
And do you reckon that Comedy Central UK, the UK brand side of it, do you reckon that's becoming a good home for home in town? Because every comedian under the sun so far has had a crack at having a panel show or a show that parallel. Do you reckon that it's helping the comedy industry grow? Or do you reckon it's like stopping it from evolving?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think it is a good place because it is the only place. It's very hard for new comedians to get on TV, especially now Mock the Week's gone. That was sort of one of the big formats where you can make it as a new comedian. And Lively Apollo is so competitive, and also its future's up in the air. So who knows, that'll be here. So it's great that it is a gateway for new comedians. I think it is fantastic for the industry and growing in that respect. I think it's reliant on panel shows, and it isn't a Comedy Central specific thing. I think everyone's been very reliant on comedy shows for the last 20 years, to be honest. I think that's maybe stagnating a little bit. I think if we can just continue to sort of work out how can we get comedians to sit around a table and do a very easy to produce sort of winter show, if that's your first thought always as a TV channel, then you're not going to see new and exciting ideas, new formats, new sketch shows, whatever it is. So I think the reliance on panel shows is not good, but Comedy Central as a whole, I'm very keen to work with them, so I don't want to upset them. But be a good avenue for comedians to sort of get their first break. Yeah, it's an interesting, it's a tricky one with panel shows.
And Comedy Central has done fantastic ones. I can name one that's the new series has changed dramatically, but in a good way. Rod Gilbert's Growing Pains. I reckon you'll be really good on that because it like even comedians that you barely see on TV that you should be on TV more appear on that show. So it is an amazing format, and you would really see that because Grace Campbell's on it, and she's not on much TV. So getting her on it means that she can be separated from her father because she deserves be known as a comedian rather than the daughter of a politician. And with your career blossoming and growing and evolving, have you got any ambitions of where you want your career to go?
Well, yeah, for sure. And actually, I might clip up that clip of you saying I should be on Rod Gilbert's Growing Pains and send it to my agent to sort of get him to pitch me for it. But that is really the next step. I'm loving my circuit work. My diary is very full. Obviously, there's still progress made on the circuit. Move from opening to headlining and get in with more clubs. So that's always evolving, and you always wanting to get in with new people. But really, the sort of next big step is to get some credits as myself rather than a writer on a radio comedy show or a TV comedy show. I want to do that in a sort of career ladder, but it's not like I'm desperate to just be on TV for the sake of it. I think my personal ambitions is to get to a level where I tour on my own name and put some time into some fun creative projects. I'm working on a drag queen character at the moment, which has been very fun to work on. I was working with my friend Max on the first episode. And yeah, that sort of stuff. Just having the space and time and indeed money to put into my own creative projects, I think A, is going to be more rewarding, and B, is a really I don't know what the word is, a really fruitful potential avenue, because you can put it out online and just go direct to your own audience. So yeah, those are my ambitions really. Put my own creative projects out there and tour doing stand-up because I do love it. Those are the two big ones.
And we know from from the internet itself, it helps a lot of shows get put on TV. So John Gray, for example, had a YouTube sitcom, and now it's been altered ever so slightly, gone on to ITV. And so when you're writing your fringe shows, how long is the process from coming up with the concept of the show to performing the show?
Well, normally it's about it's a year turnover. I normally go over a year. That's what it's been in the past. So I normally get to the end of one fringe, and it's the sort of thing where you grow so much of it performing every day, and so by the end of the month, you've sort of outgrown your material, and you know that you are a better performer and a better writer, but you can't keep fixing the show. Yeah, at some point you have to walk away from the show, and you kind of get to the end of the month, you're like, oh well, the only solution is to start all over again and write a new show. So I had that instinct for 3-4 years running. At the end of one fringe, I have an idea for a new show. You start previewing it in the early year, and then sort of work up to Edinburgh. So that used to be a year cycle. And then I didn't do Edinburgh last year. So this new show is going to be about 2.5 years worth of writing. And it's a weird process because it's lots of personal stuff, and my personal life keeps changing as everyone's does. So it's kind of hard to nail down on an exact narrative. But this has been a much longer process for the fringe next year. And I'm going to work with the director for the first time as well, which will be interesting for me because I've always kind of worked very solo. So yeah, I'm changing it up. It used to be a year's cycle, and now I'm sort of taking some time to actually let the material breathe and let the process work itself through naturally, rather than trying to force out a tight hour stuff.
Yeah, and for anyone out there watching this, hopefully we found the audience of Stuart Goldsmith's podcast, because we're trying to not. If he's watching, I'm not trying to rip you off. I'm just trying to make an even more successful version of comedian, because I'm trying to say I'm a genius. Not trying to say that Stuart isn't a genius. He is. He made one of the best children's show ever, but he tries to refuse to say he made it, but he was in it. What advice would you give to up-and-coming or new comedians / writers that get into the industry, or to do more and be a mega successful comedian like yourself?
That's very kind, first of all, thank you. Second of all, it's hard, it's tricky. The industry's really changed from when I started in a way that's quite disorienting, because when I started, there was a clear sort of ladder of you do this, you do the fringe, you get an agent, you do that, you do this TV show, then it all quite a clear, obvious route. And that's really disappeared over the last 5 years. I'd hope to be the last 10 years even. So my advice isn't as clear cut. I think my advice is to do it because you love it, because it's going to be very hard to get into paid work. It's going to be very hard to get credits. So just do it because you really, really love it and enjoy it. And I do still feel that if it all went away and there was no money, but there was still gigs I could go to, I'd still go and gig for free, even if it all, my whole career prospects disappeared, provided they didn't do it for some spiritualist reason that means I can't gig ever again. But I love it, and that's really my main advice: is make sure you do love it. If it's not for you, if you kind of find yourself chasing it because you think you want it, then I think it is better to just walk away or have a healthy relationship with it, where you just do it occasionally as a hobby. And the main thing, if you want to get big or make a splash, is to put your own stuff out there, make TikToks, clip up your stand-up set. Doesn't matter the quality, because the quality will improve the more you do it. And second of all, I'm sure we've all seen stuff online which is terrible, but has thousands and thousands of views. So don't get too sort of bogged down in this isn't quite right. And then I'll get that version, and then you film that version, and you're like, oh, I think it's still that version. So you just never put anything out. Just kind of let your inner critic go a little bit, just to keep putting stuff out, and it will naturally improve the more you do it.
Yeah. And when you're doing shows in comedy clubs, do you prefer it having a more intimate audience, or do you prefer when you're in the venues that have like larger audiences?
No, it's really as long as intimate is full, I think I would prefer that. If it's intimate and it's like 6 or 7 people, I don't know what's this at, but a 40-seater room that is full of 40 people is dreamy. You know, if it's close quarters and the laughter hits you so like instantly, there's nothing better. I used to do musical theatre and I really love performing, so I am a sucker for a big stage and a high quality wireless microphone. I think that really is, when I picture myself doing jokes and doing stand up, it's on a big stage in a nice auditorium. So I think that's my ideal. But the intimate, instant reaction feel that hits you, that is quite unbeatable, Lily.
And with the evolution of people watching comedy from well, they listen to the stand-ups on vinyl and when VHS and DVDs streaming and whatnot. Do you reckon that putting this stuff out on YouTube, because you've done it yourself, do you reckon that harms you in a way because you don't earn any money back from it because it's a free platform? Or do you reckon it's a good way of people seeing full shows you've done to say, I want to go and see that person?
I don't think it's harmful anymore, because the money to be made from the content isn't there anymore. You know, you used to be able to get like advances for big DVDs, and by withholding your stuff to have an exclusive deal with someone, you could make money of it. But we have to live in the world we're in, and the world we're in is self-produced. And I think it is very useful to have content out there, because people do find it and gravitate towards it, even if it's only a small amount. Just to have some people that seek you out and check your dates and come to see stuff, that will slowly build, and it is a really great feeling. When I spoke to some people at the Fringe this year, I said, "Oh, why did you choose my show?" And they said, "Oh, we saw you on TikTok," and it's, oh wow, you know, I've got a TikTok out and it's got like likes, but one of those likes came and bought a ticket, so that's worth more than 1 million people that didn't convert to anything. So yeah, I think it is really nice to see those people from online. And there'll be people who are really invested in you. I think they'll stick with you in a way that they won't if they just see you for 5 minutes in the middle of another show.
And so, would you say that online comedy is an important thing for the industry because of the way that people consume and eat content?
Well, yes, it's very important, but it's a double-edged sword. It's a very oversaturated. And I know I was calling earlier to let go of your own quality control, but also there is less quality control all over the internet. So you don't want to be gatekeeping. I don't know. It's not a tricky answer. Definitely, it's important. It's important for the individual, though, not for the industry. The industry is chasing it. They don't know what to do with the internet. TV producers are ultimately just professional guessers. They're guessing what TV shows will work. They're guessing who will be good in them. They don't know. And more and more, they're just relying, because that's them not having to guess. They're like, oh, this person has 100,000 followers, so they'll probably be good in it. That is bad. I think that's not good for the industry, because people, they're looking at numbers rather than content. But in terms of the personal career, I think it's fantastic. It's the future. I've seen brilliant comedians who are now going on big tours who never would have had that opportunity before. They would have just been circuit names, probably for the rest of their lives, which no great shame. It's fantastic to be at the top of your career on the circuit. But to see those people, for example, Jeff Innocent, get a wider recognition and be able to play to their own audience, it really shows how. Cam Bristow actually is another one example who I really, really love. Even though she had TV and comedy industry people interested in her, her massive tour now is off the back of her Instagram, and that is very exciting. I think that's great for your personal career, TV industry.
Yeah, and do you reckon that Trusty Hobbs, as the mega, I'm going to call it a corporation for the brief, I can't think of the word, but it'll come to me. So do you reckon that Trusty Hobbs is another useful tool for the newer community? Because the community get on it, aren't you? Well, some of them are your well-known ones, but some of them are ones that are like really well-known on the circuit, or like 3 seconds or half an hour away from exploding to become like the greatest thing you've ever seen on planet Earth. Do you reckon that Trusty Hobbs is a good place for for these comedians to have it as like a stepping stone, if you will?
So I think it's been really exciting to get some comedians on who don't have more wide recognition. And the Trust Jokes fans are a very dedicated and lovely group. They, we have the percentage of listeners to Patreon is really high. Like, not to be all boring and data based about other stuff, but compared to other podcasts, the conversion to Patreon was really high. I think it's because Trust Jokes listeners are like really high value listeners. They go and check out your other stuff. They follow you. They want to invest in the people they're listening to. And I know that Trust Jokes people, guests in the past have come up to us and said, "Oh, we had so many people every day in Edinburgh. There was at least one Trust Jokes listener." So it's been so cool that has had that effect for we're a bit newer. Obviously, having James Acaster on and Ed Gamble, they're lovely. They're a lovely boost for us. We're hardly going to shift any tickets for them more than they would shift themselves. But yeah, for some of the newer acts, most recently Shaowan Joey we just had on, I think she's fantastic, and hopefully a lot of Trust Jokes listeners will sort of go and check out other stuff she's doing, especially because he's debuting next year. So I think it's a really good platform for that, and that's one of my favorite things about the podcast is getting lesser known comedians to a wider audience.
Yeah, and with what was I gonna? I'll remember what I was gonna say next. With the evolution of podcasts, do you reckon that having your podcast for a certain amount of time on BBC Sounds helped grow the listenership a little bit further, because it was on BBC Sounds for a very small while and since hasn't up it? And do you reckon that having it on the BBC Sound helped you to say to other people that aren't just hardcore Catherine and thingy fans? It's lost me. I've lost my train of thought there. Do you reckon that that's helped the podcast and like podcasts in general?
It's an interesting one. I think I don't know how much I'm going to talk about the BBC Sounds deal. I have to go check through the contract. So I'll talk in broad strokes. It was so they got a back catalogue. So they acquired like 30 previous episodes and then got 20 like new episodes. And in that deal, the contract came to an end. So neither of us particularly walked away. The deal wasn't cut or anything, and it's still available on BBC Sounds. Those 50 episodes. Well, 49. One of them where we talked about the Queen's death, not allowed to broadcast. But 49 episodes of Trust Jokes are still on BBC Sounds. It's just not updating regularly. It's interesting because BBC Sounds is a very specific demographic. I think a lot of people who use it are they're catching up on Radio 4 shows or stuff like Dead Ringers or stuff that they always listen to and they just going back to listen to. So I don't know whether we necessarily hit our target demographic, but it definitely did no harm. I think it was great for us visually. I think it made us look more legitimate, which was really cool. I think it was nice for the BBC to try something different. So they acquired several outside podcasts to try and grow the sounds out. I think it's really cool that they are looking to sort of they know where the market is going and they're moving in that direction. And I think we did. Well, it was a smaller. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it's been the most impactful thing for us in terms of growth, but it probably put us in front of people that never would have sought out Trust Jokes otherwise. So yeah, very grateful for it. It was a nice experience.
And with the format of the show, does this help you to garner more ideas for different ways with different sets for your comedy shows, because you get all these interesting, bizarre and outrageous stories that get shared? Does this help you fuel your creativity when you go and do your own?
Yes, with Catherine and Helen, definitely. I've seen that direct sort of pipeline of Helen talking about the story on the podcast and it becoming stand-up, most notably her stairwell incident from, I can't remember what it was, maybe 82, which came back from Australia. That became a large chunk of material, and I know Catherine has had the same, and also listener gossip that's sort of integrated into her stand-up. I think maybe for me personally, not as much, because I'm not in that back and forth as intently, but just being around Catherine and Helen and laughing with friends and being just silly, it's very creatively fulfilling. and he does get the juices flowing, even if I don't get anything directly material wise. It is a good environment to be in. Yeah.
And would you say that when you have people on that aren't the people out in Britain but are like Australian or whatever, do you reckon that help broaden your like area you can do gigging? Because obviously if you had, like, for instance, Reece Nichols or the other one that's been on Spicks and Specks, I can't think of his name and it will annoy me because Spicks and Specks is amazing. Does that mean that you can, when you go to Australia, you be a little bit more known to a few more people because you've had these Australian, New Zealand, and brought out broader comedians on the show?
Definitely, I can see that. I've got all the access to the like podcast demographics and stuff, so I can see we do grow in Australian listenership and American listenership, and I think we have to grow a lot more to sort of justify a trip out to those places, specifically to Trusty Hole. But if I was going over for something else and could put on a show, I would be confident that there'll be several Trusty Hogs fans that would probably come and support me. I don't know how big it would be, but it feels like, oh, that's the start of something. Yeah. And like this year, for example, on a smaller scale, I booked a show at the Glasgow Comedy Festival. Now, I'm in London and occasionally my parents in Bournemouth. So Glasgow's quite a commitment to go and put on a show with no guarantee of money, and it's just on ticket sales. But because of Trusty Hogs and because we've got listeners in Glasgow, I'd have just assumed that no matter what, there'll probably be a playable audience. I don't know whether it'll be financially rewarding, but it's worth my time to go up there because people will support me. So yeah, in that respect, it's been really cool to get an uplift in different areas and know that we're starting something. It's something that's going to grow in different places all over, which is very exciting.
And with the podcast just getting to, or now passing the 100th episode, do you see that the show will go on forever, or do you think that at some point there will be a place where you can stop it and have a satisfied ending?
This is you're very good at questions, Tom. I don't know whether it will have a defined ending, or whether it will be a case of Helen and Catherine getting very sort of successful and busy, already myself, to back myself in the moment, that we can't do it as regularly. I think maybe that is a possibility that we might sort of occasional check-in on the podcast feed rather than the regular weekly releases. But in terms of an actual ending, I don't see it ever ending. It's not really time constrained. It's just really, it relies on Catherine and Helen's dynamic, and I think that quite eternal sounds dramatic / florid, but I think that has a long lifetime. So I don't see a particular end. I can see it potentially sort of fading out a little bit, so it's not as regular. That not in any time in the near future. Right now, we're putting more and more into podcasts. We've got our own podcast studio now, and we are looking at stuff like Trusty Hogs tours and other things we can do for Patreon supporters and stuff like that. So yeah.
And hopefully, because the only thing I don't like about podcasts is when they end. They don't end as good as sitcoms and TV shows, and where you have a satisfied ending, you stop uploading and go, no, we're no longer doing it, goodbye. And they don't do a satisfied ending, and I can picture that Trusty Hogs will end on a satisfied ending, or with Helen just doing a lot of pin noises, and then the episode just ending with everyone just wondering what on earth they've listened to. And when you say that the merchandise and that, would you ever consider, because no such thing the Fish did this, where they had a USB but in the shape of a cassette. So it's a USB with the first year, it had the second year of the show on it, but it had it on a cassette. Do you reckon that you'll make any limited edition merchandise for the Patreons so that they can listen to it in new and in interesting ways?
Yeah, I think that would be a really exciting option to look down. We've not specifically explored that yet. Although I have looked at sort of maybe making some of the live shows available to sort of purchase in some sort of, I don't know, DVD format, or whether it's a sort of a Vimeo paid link. So yeah, I think we're always trying to look at new ways to get the podcast out to in different and exciting ways. That specifically, the cassette USB is a very good idea, but yeah, maybe not for Trusty Hogs.
And I could see a vinyl, like a purplish, pinkish vinyl that just has the logo in the middle. So you see Helena Catherine's face just turning. I should turn it on the turntable. Actually, just wondering what. And then as it plays back, he'll play it just pig noises, just in reverse. All of it's just coded as from Hong Kong or whatever an official noise a pig makes. So there's probably not a hoink hoink hoink, because that sounds like an old McDonald joke. And so, is there a specific panel show that you would like to be on that you've not yet explored the option of being on?
I mean, Taskmaster, I think, is the ultimate. I think everyone wants to get on Taskmaster, so I'll put that out there as obviously Taskmaster, but I'll think of something more original for you as well. I don't know. Actually, you know what? I do know, but it's not like a comedic specific panel show, and it's more of a quiz show. It's Rich Osmond's House of Games. I love quizzing. I think it's probably one of my top 5 passions outside of comedy. So I love quiz shows, and I am very good at House of Games. I know I already played along with the telly, and I'm sure it's a very different game when you're in shares, but I smash out all those rounds. There's only a few specific rounds, the geography ones that I'm not very good at. But I would love a chance to do a week of Rich Osmond's House of Games, and I do have a lot of opinions on it, so maybe that's something A, achievable, and B, that they would.
And a lot of people aren't too sure whether or not it is a panel show or not, but the points do matter. So if the points matter, it's a quiz show. If the points don't matter, like QI, the points are meaningless. Or I used to, well, I still do, but don't do eventually. I have a panel show all about Doctor Who, but because I'm not very good at math, I've just given up thinking about points and trying to make it an even point system. So a lot of the time I editing, I have to apologise that I've given some too many points, and the points haven't added up at the end because I just said random numbers. So I think the Richard Osman House of the Games would have to as a quiz show. It would upset a lot of panel show fans, but Richard Osman is primarily a quiz show host rather than a panel show host. He did do the birthday game on Radio 4 for a small while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, actually, you just mentioned that word QI would be something very fun to do in a panel show format. And I will concede that Rich Osmond's House Games is indeed a quiz show. For the sake of the Rich Osmond branded red beans, etc., there's clearly some mistakes, so it is a quiz show. You are right.
Yeah. And so, coming towards the end of this mega glorious other adjectives that mean excellent interview. So this is the point of the interview where we'll start off with you personally. Where can people find you? Don't give away your home address, but online, where can people find you?
My Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything is Stand Up Andrew. And my website is standupandrew.com. That particularly has all my live show dates. They're mostly club gigs, but I'm only doing like 20 minutes, 30 minutes set. But if you just want to go catch me out in the wild, that's probably the best place for it. And I also post about any solo shows on my socials. So those are the best places to find.
And where can people find the podcast and everything to do with the podcast? That includes like buying merch, merchandise, or buying whatever you've got to sell for the podcast. Where can people find all this information?
Again, social media is probably the best at the moment. Trusty Hogs, at Trusty Hogs on Instagram and Twitter. We do have a website. I own trustyhogs.com, which if you go to at the moment is just sort of a template for a travel website, because I've not built a website yet. So depending on when this goes out, trustyhogs.com will have all the information. If not, go to social media and we have a linktree/trustyhogs, and that has a link to all of our live shows, all of our listening stuff. Social media, Instagram especially, Trusty Hogs.
So there you go. That was another glorious interview. Now, before we disappear, here's what's going on the Tom Mason universe, because we have an update. Now, since, as I probably mentioned, since I started started at uni, in the next stage of education, the videos have not been as regular, but that's all about to change. Sadly, the video elements of these things aren't going to exist, because if it exists, it'd be even worse than the audio is probably going to be. So, I am, as of this week, about to start my journey on the university radio. So, because they're all pre-recorded, after that, it'll all be on YouTube. What it'll be on the selected channel that it's related to. That will be, hopefully, some Doctor Who audio dramas, or lots of sitcoms, sketch shows, you name it, comedy-related jargon, and whether or not any of it's any good, we'll have to wait and see. Will be on this channel. The Doctor Who stuff will be on Tom Mason, and the sitcom documentary series that's a go-ahead this week will be on Here's One, not Here's One immediately, and now for something completely different, it'll be on there in the similar sort of format of that. So, more comedy from me, because if you're watching YouTube, you're watching it on Tom's Comedy Club, so you'll watch it on the greatest comedy channel that I own, because it's great, because it's weird, and who else wants to watch me pretend I'm auditioning for Big Brother? Who else? Not me, clearly. So, anyway, guys, there'll be more episodes of Joker Park in due course. Hopefully, I don't get attacked by Stuart Goldsmith for technically robbing his idea, but not really robbing his idea, because I probably do a better job than him. Don't tell him I said that, because I want to interview him, so I don't want an angry Stuart Goldsmith chasing after me down the street. But thank you guys for watching, and thank you, Andrew, for letting me interview you.
For sure.
And thank you guys for watching. Bye.